Welcome to the STR DataLab.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the STR DataLab. I'm Jamie Lane, Chief Economist at AirDNA, and I'm joined today by a fellow Atlantan, Dr. Rachel Gainsbrugh, of CEO of Short-Term Gems. Rachel, Dr. Rachel, welcome.
Rachel's fine, Rachel's fine. Hi, Jamie. Thank you so much for having me. You know I love to nerd out with the numbers, so I was looking forward to us connecting today for sure.
Yeah, so first, how's your summer going?
It's good, it's good. We're actually heading down to South Florida to visit family, so that's where, I'm from originally, so can't wait to see mom and dad and all the in-laws and cousins. Looking forward to that.
That's great. So we're here today to talk about short-term rental data, short-term rental trends, talk about sort of what you're seeing in the market, what your experience, the advice that you give to short-term rental owners, operators, investors. But I want to maybe start with those that don't know you. How did you get your start? How did you go from pharmacist to short-term rental operator? Like, what's the story?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm gonna keep this as short as possible. Little girl from Haiti, which is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, but rich in spirit. Raised in Miami, went to school, did all the things, was taught that education was the way out, and it was true. Went on to get the doctorate. Hooray, right? But that came with a whopping $500,000 in student loan debt. I was floored when I saw that my monthly payments for my student loans were 5x my mortgage when upon graduation, and I had to figure a way out, my husband and I. And so we're burning the candle at both ends and just really doubling down on the Dave Ramsey model of, the debt snowball. That was working out, but then I tuned into an episode of Bigger Pockets, and then I was hooked. So I took off my Dave Ramsey hat, put on my Bigger Pockets hat, and the rest is history. I wanted to figure out a way instead of working my husband and I working these 5-hour shifts. When I heard Warren Buffett say, "If you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die," I was floored. I was like, "Yeah, how do I make money while I sleep?" And so I started to research all of the different real estate strategies, and the one that resonated with me, because I was that burnt out person looking for a pocket of rest, was, wow, I can purchase a short-term rental, set it up in a way that would resonate with families who are traveling. At one point, we had stayed at an Airbnb short-term rental on the outskirts of Florida, and I looked around, I was like, "Oh, dishes, okay, I can do this. There are spoons here. There are sheets here. I can do this. Oh, there are some things that miss it. I can do this, and I can probably do this better." And I got the bug that this was the strategy for me. So it provides us cash flow as well as it's a lifestyle asset for us from in many of our markets. So that's kind of the short and long of it.
So, I mean, I assuming listening to Bigger Pockets, and looking through all the different investment avenues of long-term rentals, midterm rentals, short-term rentals, I'm going into multifamily, like the whole house hacking. Like, what was it about short-term rentals that really attracted you to the space?
Okay, so when I was looking around 2018, I will say midterm rentals was not even a conversation that was being had. Now, I'm in all the midterm rental forums as well, but what really resonated with me, Jamie, were the numbers. Absolutely the numbers. I spreadsheeted the heck out of the actual return on, not only my investment, but the return on my energy if I were to put it into a particular strategy. And yes, short-term rentals, when you're getting started, is not a passive sport by any stretch of the imagination. Do not believe anyone that tells you short-term rentals are passive. However, the return on investment, the return on energy that I got back from my analysis far outweighed the other strategies. For example, a lot of people in the medical field, we look at multifamily investing. We get pitched this at the hospital all the time. Hey, join, and you're in multifamily. It's kind of like you're crowdfunding, right? You all put your money in a bucket and you're waiting around for a check to come to you, either on a monthly basis or on a quarterly basis. Okay, so I just gave $50,000 and now I'm waiting around for a quarterly check of $400. That didn't resonate with me. That didn't sound really fun to me. And then on those platforms, there's a lot of people talking about wholesaling. And I know that's very controversial right now since these are banning all of that. And so the marketing pitch was you can start with no money at all. It's like, oh, why not? This sounds great, right? And then I looked at the time expenditure, the marketing budget that you would need. You're knocking on doors, you're putting out flyers, you have 18 different things that you're leaning into. And my time was better served actually punching in a clock at the W-2 and getting that guaranteed income that I can then use as a leveraging tool to get really great loan products and just really increase our portfolio. And the in between was watch HGTV, and in 45 minutes, you got $50,000 like at the end of the episode on a fix and flip. And then I realized, no, that is a full-time job. I'm going through a ground up construction right now. It is chasing down now this week's episode. I'm chasing down something called wetlands paperwork. It's like, come on, what is this? So if I'm not going to, that's a full-time job. You're managing team, you're managing contractors, you're looking at the procurement of supplies, lumber, you're paying attention to lumber costs. It's like it is a whole job. And so my best and highest use was doubling down on my W-2, using these amazing loan lender products due to my work history and my income, and growing my portfolio one at a time that way.
It does seem like on in the other aspects of real estate, like you get into like that you have to scale. Like you the whole how many doors do you have? How many doors can you get to? Like because the margins can be so low. Where in short-term rentals, it seems that with only a few properties that and you can build a decent portfolio that's cash flowing. So how do you sort of and layer in on trying to think about portfolio sort of construction and what is really needed to be successful in the space?
Yeah. So when I think of portfolio construction, you want to future pace what your lending products are going to be that will be accessible to you. And so the big part of that up front is taking a look at my debt to income ratio to make sure that I'm positioning myself. So I love using a 10% down lending product to start off. I've even found a 5% down lending product. I start off with as little as possible because my runway is a bit longer as far as I know to retirement, so I'm able to work for the next several decades, thankfully, although my husband and I have retired because of our portfolio. But I wanna look at that. I wanna look at my debt to income ratio. So I'm allowed to have up to 10 FHA loans or 10 government type of, subsidized loans, which are FHA, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. However, the friction point, Jamie, is once you get to 3, 4, or 5, then your debt to income ratio is too high and you can't necessarily purchase more. So what I like to layer in is potentially a debt service coverage ratio loan, which is a DSCR loan, where your debt to income ratio is not really taken into consideration. It's more of a business purpose loan. They want to know how well the business will perform, and then I'll layer in a business there's a 10% business purpose loan. I forget the name of it, but there are different products out there for sure. And so I'm always monitoring what that looks like. And for our members too, what does that look like? Because we may want to switch off. We may take an FHA, then a DSCR, then a FHA, then a DSCR as we build the business. And now you have previous year's income from your rentals that can be accounted for, and it helps you to continue to grow and scale. But all you need, I truly believe, to really change the trajectory of your life, especially if you're a busy professional and you're not looking to add more clinical hours to your schedule per se, or, just to be grinding it out, you need two really well positioned properties. You don't need 100 doors, just put that out of your mind. Two really well positioned properties to start off, and it really makes a huge difference.
Now that really resonates with me, and I think resonates with a lot of our clients here, their DNA of like most of them are starting with zero. They're making that transition to one. They realize like either one that it resonates as like, oh, this is great. It's not too much work. I like hosting. I think a lot of times it sort of breaks off of like, oh, I actually enjoy interacting with guests and like the hospitality aspect of it. Or like, if one more person messages me about the air conditioner unit or like how to use the dishwasher, like so all
Yeah.
those questions that go along with it. And then, and as long as you're okay with that or have a way to sort of manage through it, then that second, third one really does become a little bit less work, but you're really stacking on top the additional cash flow revenue and you're a bit better at it after that first one.
100%, and I'm glad you mentioned that because what I'm finding, and it was a pleasant surprise in our community, is that a lot of healthcare providers seem to take that healthcare into guest care in that realm, and they are enjoying it, which I thought it was such an unexpected surprise. So I know Dr. Dada in our community, she said, she's always checking in, although she has a virtual assistant that supports her. She's like, "Well, are they having a good time?" And she's so invested in it. And it's like, it's your baby. When you have 1 or 2, it's like, it's so precious to you. And I feel as though it's just such a different paradigm shift to what we have been taught. And I love, a lot of those real estate platforms that I listen to, but the scale quickly and, I guess build in a way that's without the strong foundation that we're referring to makes it difficult to give that highest level of care. So they're so much more well invested and they're wanting to make sure that the guests are having such a great time. And I do see a correlation between patient care and guest care. I think that's the synergy there, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah, and actually at my parents' house up in Maine right now, my mom spent her entire life as a nurse
Oh my
and
gosh.
in both ICU and recovery. And now they manage 4 short-term rentals up here, and they love it. They love sort of the guest interaction, seeing people coming in from all over the world, sort of being able to
Mhm.
recommend. The hospitality aspect is, I think, what and makes it great. Like, it's still probably all as much or if not more work that they were doing when they were working full time, but now they're retired and sort of running it, and it seems to be a great fit for them. I've always and when I was first introduced to you, and I know we met up at the Atlanta, short-term rental event. I've been following you on Instagram for years, and I always think of you as, like, the midterm rental, like, queen of, like, who's, like, got a pulse of what's going on in the midterm rental space, and I really wanted to pick your brain on, 1, and is it still as hot as maybe it was in 2021 and 2022? And we look at the data and it's like, it's still strong. It's still well above 2019 levels and 2018 levels in terms of share of overall bookings, but it does seem to have slowed a bit. So, like, how are you thinking about midterm rentals? And do you think it's a sustainable strategy for the long term?
So that's a great question. And I want to kind of qualify that a little bit, Jamie, because midterm rentals, meaning bookings where people are looking to stay 28 days or more, there are over 50 different avatars that leverage a midterm rental, that need a midterm rental, that need a place to stay on a month-to-month basis. They need furnished month-to-month housing. There's so many different people that need that. Now, when it comes to midterm rental travel nurses, that like exploded, right? Your essential workers during, the pandemic, we had a lot of inquiries for that type of midterm rental. However, that has slowed down significantly. That has slowed down. So there are some strikes right now, strike nurses that go out to help out if there are strikes. However, for the pandemic, that like we saw a significant uptick there. When it comes to midterm rentals, I do have a pulse on the different strategies, but I specialize specifically in 2 avatars. Number 1, the insurance policyholder, those who are displaced from their homes due to disaster. It may be man-made disasters such as a fire or water pipe that burst, or it may be due to an catastrophic act of nature, such as a hurricane or tornado. So you tell me, Jamie, how many catastrophes are we seeing on a day-to-day basis just in Houston alone, right, this week?
It's been something that I think is increasing on a increasing basis. It probably isn't gonna slow down.
It isn't going to slow down. So that specific segment of midterm rentals has increased, Jamie. That has increased. However, the market as a whole most likely has taken a dip because we're not seeing as much of demand for those travel nurses and maybe not as much for those migrant climate snowbirds potentially and so on and so forth. So, yes, I am seeing a lot of inquiries. They come in every single day. There's so many homes that, every year it gets older, there's a water pipe situation, in a lot of the markets in Georgia and a variety of areas. The second industry that's kind of interested here in Georgia is the filming industry is huge in Georgia. Now, when we saw the SAG-AFTRA strikes that occurred, a little bit earlier on, was that last year? I'm not sure. Well, that strike has come to an end, and so we're seeing an uptick now of cast and crew members looking for midterm rental temporary furnished accommodations. So those other segments of midterm rentals, they seem to vary based on a demand in that area for whatever reason, or strikes are impactful. But the insurance claims due to catastrophes, Jamie, that is going up, period. That has gone up, hands down. So that is what we're seeing.
So when you talk about those 2 different demand segments, like, they do seem lucrative, but niche in terms of, like, needing to build the relationships, needing to I'm not sure if you have to be approved by different insurance providers of assuming like and with a lot of the cast and crews, like that got people that they work with and that they know and that they recommend to their friends and coworkers. So how have you seen like getting started in niches like that and maybe and in a way that expands to and those are maybe good for the Southeast, but even if it's like could expand to other niches out there?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jamie. Like it or not, Airbnb is the Google for furnished accommodations. Point blank period. I don't know how else to tell you. And so we start off on Airbnb a lot of times. We list our property, but the wording, the marketing, the verbiage, the copy, we speak to them. Hey, are you coming in from such and such in order to work at the Trillet Studios? You name drop the studios and they recognize, oh, this is someone who knows what I need. This is someone who's hosted my type of people. So we start off there, but then from there, we want to continue to serve them and expand our ecosystem within their realm and reach out to whoever it is they're working with. We may request an email. So again, return on energy for me. It's the return on energy for me. I don't believe in cold calling personally. I feel like that is an art and a science, and there are people that are talented in that. That is not my talent. Okay. I realized the other day, my very first job when I was 17 years old, I was a telemarketer and I got fired in a week. I was so terrible cold calling people. So that's what I'm not gonna do. So what I want to figure out is, well, what is my highest leverage tool? And one of them is listing my properties on Airbnb in a way that speaks to my avatar and then fostering, giving them a great stay, an outstanding stay and fostering relationships with them for repeat direct bookings thereafter and letting them know, hey, if you let a friend, know what we're doing, or if you connect us with some resources in your workplace, we have those messages on automation and we give them a perk, a benefit, a basket, or something of that nature for the referral.
So for someone that was thinking about maybe getting into midterm rentals or finding midterm rental guests for the first time, is it a different guest in your property can stay the same? Or and is it are the, do you have any suggestions on like what does someone actually need to do with the asset to make it more attractive to a midterm rental guest versus maybe a traditional transient and short-term rental guest?
Yeah, so if I could walk you through, what one of our properties, how we have set that up that serves both, midterm and short-term rental guests that we don't really alter much. Let me walk you through one, for instance. So our brand, we like to invest in areas that are a little bit more upscale. It doesn't have to be ultra luxury or the neighboring neighborhood over, because we believe that the cash flow has to be there, the ROI has to be there. And so we like investing in B minus neighborhoods that are very close in proximity to A neighborhoods. Okay. So the A neighborhoods, say something happens to their home, well, they have an insurance claim, that basket of funds, it's much larger and we can cater to them. In our midterm rental properties, they're typically hybrid properties that's part of the two doors. We want to make sure that the property is fully equipped for someone to live there. For instance, if it's a short-term rental property, a lot of times your guests aren't cooking anymore. They're there to see the attractions if you're one of those locations. And so you may not take great care to place the higher quality cooking tools in that property. However, with a midterm rental, we want to make sure they have everything they need. We want to make sure that the cooking tools are there. I think to myself, okay, what would I need to cook an Italian dish like a spaghetti dinner? So the colander, the cheese grater, all those things, just go through your list, and you want it to be quality because it's going to last longer, as well, which is really important. Another thing with our short-term rentals, we typically use all white linens. With midterm rentals, we have a little bit of flexibility. If we know there are a lot of kiddos, we can break out some of the tan linens, the gray linens as backup linens. However, these individuals, they're from the neighborhood over. Some of them actually have their own pillows, their own linens that they want to bring themselves. And so we're not going to break out the Brook linen. High is in most expensive. We can add some savings by cutting back on some of those higher end linens. So for midterm rentals, it's understanding well what the configuration of the property needs to be. Certain communities, they're populated with a lot of elderly folks, certain communities populated with a lot of younger folks. And so for us, we like properties that have at least a master or a bedroom with a bathroom on the main level, so that we can accommodate someone who has special needs or someone who is wheelchair bound, so that they have access to the property as well. And oftentimes, Jamie, we find that we're one of the only ones in a particular community or a neighborhood that have thought that out. And so oftentimes we're selected above all of the other properties because we've thought that out. And with midterm rentals, okay, so brace yourself. A lot of people are going to clutch their pearls, but families who are displaced are not going to board their loved fluffy ones in a boarding kennel for months on end. If you are not pet friendly in the midterm rental space, you are leaving a lot of money on the table. You're not gonna get bugged. So our properties, one of the first things we ensure is that we have hard floors throughout. We're pet proof, we're pet friendly, and we make sure we provide those extras for the pets because they're a part of the family.
Yeah. No, my sister actually just moved to Atlanta, was looking for a midterm rental, and she had the hardest time finding one that would let her have her cat, and ended up finding one, but it wasn't as easy as I thought it was gonna be for her.
Yeah, you see? And more than 65% of guests are looking for pet friendly, and only 20% of hosts are willing to offer it.
Well, that aligns. So I heard you say luxury, and luxury is a term within this industry that I feel like a lot of people aspire to, but I don't really know how to define it. So when you think about luxury, how do you define it?
I love that you asked that. So I have a different approach and a different definition for luxury, and it's my luxury approach that doesn't have to break the bank. When we think about luxury real estate and you have a luxury realtor, these are 10, $20 million homes in the US, right? However, our properties range from 175,000 to, I want to say, 462,000 up until this point. We have something else that's going to break the bank, but we won't talk about that right now. That's for another conversation. And the way that I was able to position these properties as luxury properties is a few components. First and foremost, the modern luxury is different from traditional luxury. I don't know, we're gonna date ourselves, JB, maybe. I don't know if you remember Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous,
Oh, yeah.
where yeah, the gold-plated toilets and all of that, the gold doorknobs, all of that. Well, nobody wants that. Nobody cares about that anymore. So, that's traditional luxury, but ever since the Industrial Revolution, now we have access to accumulate things. We can go on Amazon, you can purchase something, guess what? The next day I can purchase it as well. So that's no longer a luxury. When it comes to luxury hospitality, it's all about the 3 Cs. I use 3 Cs to define it. It's about communication, it's about connection, and it's about convenience. Okay. So it starts from the guest seeing your property marketed the way it's marketed, right? All the way through their experience with connecting and communicating with you. Once they arrive at the property, is it set up in a way that they can connect with the guests that they're traveling with? They can connect with nature, they can connect with the local ecosystem, right? And it's the whole journey. It's being mindful of the whole journey, and so as soon as they step foot on the property, was it easy for them to check in? Was it convenient? There's nothing like fumbling around for a key that they can't find or a lockbox code that's not working. That already diminishes the luxury that you're trying to provide if some of those easy things are not in place, right? And so as soon as they step into the property, I think about all 5 senses. What are they smelling? What do they get to taste? What do they hear? And we'll have, some music dialed in, unpacking music of their choice. What do they feel? What are they touching, right? Are the textiles, do they feel high quality? Do the sheets feel nice and soft? Is it, natural fiber linens? We like to use natural fiber linens. From a hospitality perspective, it's easier to clean also, but it's very, very, comfortable. And so we wanna think about all 5 senses, and we wanna address that. So you can really up-level a property and create a luxury space. It doesn't matter where you're at. The only exception is if you are in an area that's challenged and you're driving through and you see cars that parked on the lawns and it's a hot mess. Well, we wouldn't be able to market that from a curb appeal perspective as a luxury property because there's a lot fighting against you. So, yeah, when I'm looking at properties, it could be out of state. I'll drop a pin and I'll walk around the neighborhood virtually using Google to see what's the neighborhood looking like. Is it next to a triple X store? Then, yeah, that's not going to be a vibe at all. So, yeah,
And what really resonated with me there was the comment about communication. This is like in analyzing well-performing versus underperforming properties. I feel like one of the thing that comes up the most is like the review scores on communication. And it really stands out for as companies start to scale, communication is really hard to scale. So, and just kind of when you have 1 or 2 properties, being attentive to guest questions, giving really personalized responses, really showing them that you care. Like, do you have any tips on like how to make that more scalable as you add more properties and making sure that you still provide that luxury experience?
absolutely. So communication is key, and believe it or not, it's one of the easiest things to get a 5-star review on. So I absolutely love seeing my 5-star reviews in communication, and there are no excuses. We have so many tools at our fingertips. I truly believe on return on energy. So if you've read the E-Myth, automate, eliminate, delegate, I have 5 automated texts that go out to my guests at a particular cadence that makes sense for that booking. For instance, a pre-booking text, but one that is so important and that often gets skipped, Jamie, is the day after they arrive. So the day that after they arrive, I send out an automated text that says, "Hey, Jamie, I hope you are settled in. Just wanted to check in and make sure is everything okay. Our cleaning team is wonderful, but they occasionally miss a thing or two. Let me know how your stay is. And by the way, if you love barbecue, there's a new restaurant down the street, such and such is the name. Looking forward to hearing back from you. Something along those lines. And Jamie, that changes everything. That gives them the opportunity to just hash it out. If something was not clean, if something you want them to complain, do not avoid communication. Open the door for communication. Let them complain. You want to hear it out because you don't want them stewing day and night over this was missed and that was missed. You want them to know they can share that with you. And by the time, they leave, you have resolved their concerns and now they're like, "Oh, this was a great state, even though it could have been a cluster," you know? So, the communication is key, but you can automate, I would say 70% of it can be automated. So, it is very scalable, but we do want to have those extra special touches for the other 30%. For example, after every guest leaves, I leave a guest review response that is public. So, say Jamie stays with me and it's like, "Hey, I had a great time. I really love the pool," or "I had a great time. I really love the coffee bar. There are a variety of coffees that were imported," or something along those lines, right? Just as an example, I will respond publicly and say, "Oh, hey, Jamie, thank you so much for the kind words about the coffee bar. We really wanted to make sure that you felt welcome." And the next sentence is a plug for my property that mentions something that maybe Jamie didn't mention. We love hosting large families, and that's why we have this extra special guest room where, you can plug something in, or you can say something along the lines of, we love hosting remote workers that are coming in to build the data center next door. And we've got this workstation that we just built out specifically for remote workers. And then we'll wrap it up with, do come again and see us. Okay. I know that sounds like it's a lot, Jamie, but hear me out. I promise you, it's not a lot because on Thursdays, me and my VA, we used to fight for our lives. Both of us, English is not our native tongue. And we would have to write these reviews off the top of our heads. And it was a struggle. But ding, 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 ChatGPT is here, my friends. And so we built out that format and we let ChatGPT know here are some of the key words that we want that second sentence to convey to market our property for future guests. And we're able to spit out those guest responses. We carve out 1 day a week, 30 minutes, and we have all of these guest responses, that are provided to us. And it's just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love those sort of tips. The reviews, like any way to highlight additional things on your property, are excellent in ways that you can get people reading things that maybe if they do skip and see your photo, skip straight to the reviews. Now they're still getting and some of the things you really want to highlight within the listing, so that they know why and your property might be and unique from all the others. So that's amazing. So we are getting towards the end of the time. It's been a very insightful conversation hitting on and midterm rentals, luxury, your story, and sort of tips on communication. Are there any other things you'd like to leave the audience in terms of information that and you think would be relevant to our group? Or in addition, where to find you and more information about short-term gyms?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to encourage the audience to take action, Jamie, right? So, right now, I feel even though things may seem uncertain, that we're still experiencing one of the biggest wealth transfers in my generation. A little girl from Haiti should not have a portfolio of 22 properties, right? And should not be able to serve so many in our community. We're building orphanages there as well as in Bolivia. We're able to participate in impact projects, and it's because of the number of people we're able to serve with our short-term rentals. And I want to encourage the community to take action. I know we're worried, we're afraid, well, what if we purchase the wrong property in the wrong market? What if there's saturation? Well, that's why AirDNA is here, guys. AirDNA is absolutely amazing. I live on that tool every single day. I go in, I'm able to download spreadsheets. I already said I'm a spreadsheet girl. It's all about the spreadsheets for me. And just one zip code over, you have the data to make informed decisions. So analyze your markets, get to know your numbers, and then take action. Perfectionism is the cause of paralysis. There's not a perfect property, there's not a perfect market, right? We want to take action. And by the time you've taken action, you can redirect. But as long as you're in the game, you're in it. You're in it. Get to moving, do something, and then we could course correct and redirect. And yeah, so that's my TED Talk.
Well, Rachel, thank you so much. This has been such a insightful chat. Love your energy and love it and watching everything that you guys are building.
Thank you so much, Jamie. And I do have a free resource. I pulled my top favorite cities for short-term rentals, of course, using AirDNA as my favorite tool. If they go to 75gems.com, that's 75gems.com, you'll grab that tool, a spreadsheet, of course, as well as some tax efficiency resources because we build our wealth taking advantage of tax strategy, to be honest.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again, Rachel.
You're welcome. Thank you, Jamie.